Hey guys. Mark and Chirpy. Stephen. Hey David. Matty, good to see you. Tommy. What's happening tonight? Not very much. Really? I haven't done a whole lot. I'm not sure what sort of news it is. Hey Thomas. Whoever else I've missed. Uh, I'm not sure whether it's settings or whether it's something that I haven't done or whether it's just the way YouTube operates or which app you use or whatever. I'm not sure all of you can access live chat, and that's a bit strange from mobile devices. So if anyone has any thoughts on why that might be, I think sometimes it seems to appear down the bottom, and sometimes you've got to go into desktop mode to access it. And that's a bit strange. I'm not sure about that. So I wish I'd make that a little bit easier. But this live stream kind of relies a bit on live chat, and I do try to respond to it pretty much. So watching it after the event's probably a bit boring. Yeah, Chirpy, we need to sort that out. I'm not sure why that is, but anyway. Hi, Cam. Good to see you. Still in the land of the living. So, there's a couple of shout-outs first up, I guess. Anyway, sticker from Machine NZ, which is pretty cool. I think this is a very limited edition thing. Not sure who else has got one. Really nice letter from him too. Hey, JB. Sending out stickers to people who've inspired me, of interest, varied content, and where I have learnt tips and tricks from. Gosh, I'm not sure I fit in any of those things, but anyway, I've got a awesome. Yeah, it's a pretty cool sticker actually. It's not huge, but it's nice. So I'm going to put that up somewhere over the other board. I got one too from Man Cave Metal Supply. If you're in Australia, he seems to be up and coming and pretty helpful and a good price, and he cuts to length, stuff like that. Check him out. And a letter too from JB from Oz. This guy, he sort of features on the coffee mug apparently. Not sure why you've got dark glasses, but JB from Oz. He ended up on the sticker board way up the top, so you never ever see him. But we thought, well, I'll get the mug out and give him a shout out. He sent some 3D prints from his new 3D printer, which is a pretty nice bit of gear. Don't know much about it, except that it uses resin and seems to all work upside down. And it's in an orange box for some reason, which is probably UV light or something like that, I think. I'm sure he'll have more updates as time goes on. There's already a couple of videos about it on his channel. But he offered a while back to CNC machine a conrod for this engine, which probably is an easy way to do it. Ideally, I'd like a nice forging set up a machine, but really that makes it difficult to machine and you don't know what you're getting. So anyway, CNC conrod would be really nice. And the offer's gratefully accepted. But he sent me a 3D print, and I put it together tonight because the tolerances aren't real clever, but it's the first print off the machine, so that's not a bad effort. So I ran a reamer through it and put it together just now. Probably will never ever come apart. No, tight, stuck. Anyway, I think it will eventually. But this is roughly the bits of the size of the bits to go in this engine, which is pretty chunky. Just messing around, we haven't got this board yet, so there's not as much clearance as there should be, and it's touching here at the moment, and probably when we open it out it won't. And if we open it out another 1/16 of an inch, it's probably going to be less likely to. The problem here at the moment is that it's touching here on the bed plate, and that's probably a bit of an issue, but we need to work around that. And maybe I need to set this up because I've made a mistake on the calculations, so I need to set this up and remachine it. That's not a fun job, but something we can do. So that's where we're at with this 400 engine. We've 3D printed the crank camshaft and put in, and I messed around and started to rough this out in 1020, but I don't think it's hard enough, so I'm going to get a bit of 4140 to do it, because it's running in the cast iron and I don't want it to gall or wear out or anything. I want a nice polished hard surface. So that's what I'm going to do with that, I think. So that's where we're at with that. This is probably a bit short, I think, this conrod. It only comes to within about that far of the top, which I'm not sure about. What I really need to do is get this machined, board, and the piston machined to go in the bore, and then get this conrod in there and see where everything touches and what needs to be done. Because quite likely if we get this on center and bored out, then this might not touch as it goes round, and that would be nice. But I have a feeling that I'm going to be machining this bush down at least, probably be taking 3mm/8 of an inch off it, something like that. That's where I'm at with that, and then that should give us enough clearance to make that work. So all fun and games. Picked up some new graver handles. I guess that's another exciting thing. It might be exciting to some people. I'm not sure it's all that exciting. And probably probably should make some if I get serious about this whole engraving caper. But this is a short one, the same as what I had, and this one's a bit longer. And the reason for that is that if you use a longer one, then you can use a shorter graver, which means that you can get 2 gravers out of a length. So we've got a couple of those too. And I'll mess around and I guess fit them up. These are actually pretty flash. They've got a brass bush in them, so we'll have to investigate that a bit more. I only just noticed that. Probably they've got a set screw in them. Something like that. Anyway. That's something else we've done. So I might get another engraving video out of me before too long. huge thanks to new subscribers, new patrons, things like that, because that's what makes the world go round. Update on the pattern. I think we need an update on the pattern. There's a pattern I sent to Good of the Land Fest, or to Clark Easterling, 10 days before Good of the Land Fest, and it didn't make it. It got held up in customs in New York, and it hasn't been delivered yet. I think it's out for delivery this morning. Clark's probably going to go and find it. I think he's got a ticket, so he's got to go to the post office, and I think he's going to go and chase it up today. And that pattern will be there, but it didn't arrive. And the guys found an antique pattern, which was probably would have saved everyone a lot of work if we'd known that that situation was there. And they cast one and did pretty well, and it looks great. However, my pattern's there for next year, and I'm not making an official announcement, but I'd like to perhaps try and be there for next year too. I'm not sure about that, so we'll see how we go. If we could get one of the northern events and maybe the Soul Steam Fest and Good of the Land Fest or something like that in, it might be fun next year. But we're 12 months away and anything could happen. So not official announcement, but there you go. I didn't cast this piston. I cast one. I cast an aluminium one. If I've got any idea where it went. Let's have a look over here. Hang on. Yep, no, it'll be kicking around on the bench somewhere. But I did cast an aluminium one just to make sure that this all worked inside and the cores and everything worked. I don't know if you can see down inside there. We do have a light here, which will blow everything out, but probably if we work this right, maybe. Hey, Kevin. If we work this right, I don't know if you can see that, but it does have detail inside there. Yep, can't see a thing. Sorry. You'll be all retired next year, Stephen, so we'll see you there. Hey, Duncan. So this piston's probably the better one. The other one seems a bit hard. I think this is probably going to be okay. It's a sandcast soft iron piston, so it will clean up, and this one's pretty. You'll file it up, and it's got shiny spots on it where I've hit it with a file. So I think this one would grind up all right. Hey, Peter. So that's a job. But we need to bore this first, and that's the next job, really. We're also messing around with these two little brackets, which are 3D printed. They look something like this. They go. One goes on there and one goes there and one goes there, sort of. Other way around. This one goes back in there. And this one has the ignition bracket, which runs on the outside of this cam, which has an electrical cam on this part of the camshaft. So Kevin's turned up, Machine NZ This one, big shout out on his sticker, and thank you very much. Need to make flanges, and I'm not sure whether I'm probably going to mill them out with a pantograph mill from a pattern, a 3D printed pattern. I think something like that might be a really good idea to get them both the same. We're still thinking about that. And we still need a manifold which goes under the head here with the carburetor check valve and everything in it. So that's another job. So at some point in the next month, there's probably going to be a foundry visit as well. I've just silver soldered 2 bits of bronze together to make those 2 little brackets, and I'll make them all together and machine them to profile and everything, and then separate them. Yeah, I'm not sure. You can't see that. It's pretty dark in there, and I really am sorry about that. But it should be a pretty good casting, I think. If it's not, we'll get another one cast with probably a sort of a chill plate or something on it, so that it doesn't cool down quite as quick and it doesn't chill out. So progress goes on with that. This weekend, I think, I was sort of looking to dig that out and I never got there. But this weekend, I think I'm going to probably fix the cross slide on the launch lathe, which I've been promising myself I'm going to do for weeks. But it's getting to the point that nut's got way too much backlash and it's about worn out. So I'm going to have to fix it before it gets bad. No, so bad I can't use the lathe. So that's going to be this next weekend, I think. What else? Don't know if there's anything much else at all. I did fill up my drill index a little bit. I've got this drill index. Should talk about drill indexes. This was a gift from a friend, and it's not bad, and it's not a highly expensive one. It's metric. Hey, Raymond. It's kind of, it's borderline crap, to be honest. It's okay, and it does the job, but you've got to have both hands to pull drills in and out of it because they're tight or they're loose, depending on which hole it is. And it tends to shake around a bit. And it's too tight, really, to get your fingers in there to get the drill out of the inside if all the drills are all the same length. So it's not really a design. What I had thought to do is make a pattern to do a cast and aluminium one and sell that as a blank for people to make their own drill index. I'm wondering if anyone's interested in that project. It'd be a nice ornamental square one, sort of in a vintage pattern, probably with some lettering cast into it, and probably a little nameplate to attach to it later, something like that, like a etched brass nameplate to go on it afterwards. I'm thinking that something like that needs to be done, and it's probably going to be square with drill rows in it this way, rather than a rotating one. And a bit of probably the little ones lower on the front and the bigger ones higher on the back, and a nice sculpted frame around it, and then probably all the letters raised in the casting. Maybe that might be a bridge too far, but we're thinking about that. Hey, Music Man, good day. So if anyone's got any thoughts or would be interested in one, that might be something I could cast half a dozen of and let some of them go. I'm just thinking this through out loud, really. But for a while, I thought that needs to be done. I picked up this little stone from jewellery supplies, or watchmaker supplies here, guys. This oil stone. It's a nice stone. Wasn't expensive. It was about $10-12, something like that. But it's got a box with a magnetic catch. What a great idea. This is seriously something that's been missing from my life. I don't know how I ever lived without this. and no hinge, no nothing. It's just got a box to keep the dirt out. And it's a really good idea. I'm impressed about that. So I've been using this a bit. This stone, as you can see, it's a nice size for a lot of work. But the magnetic box is a great thing. Yeah, I've sort of been sorting my drills, but I've got nearly a complete set, and a lot of these are in boxes, and I haven't managed to get them out. And every now and again, I go through a few and put them in here. And the ones that I haven't had, I've stocked up. So I've nearly got a complete set of 1mm to 10mm in 0.1 increments, which is really helpful. I've got a complete set of imperial ones, and I've got a complete set of number drills, but metric drills are sort of my go-to mostly, unless I'm doing something that requires a specialist drill. So it would be metric, and we'll see. But it'll be about 8 inches square, I guess, and something a little bit Art Deco style. And whether they're cast in aluminium or whether we get them moulded in something else, I'm not sure yet. But a better quality thing, maybe. Good magnets for the Hall effect. The spark on this, I made a decision. There was a bit interesting, really. This engine was originally designed for hot tube ignition, which is kind of good, but not much good outside, I don't think. And it's pretty fussy and probably not particularly safe in 2019. And later on, the electric ignition was designed for it, which is a trembler coil, basically a breaker and a spark plug, which is the CM6, which I've already got. Is it CM6 10mm plug? I don't know if you can focus on that. Probably not. So I'm probably just going to set up a buzz coil and a switch on and off and a battery box, and that'll do plenty to run it. Best way to clean oil stone? That's a really good question. Ultrasonic's probably best if you've got a decent ultrasonic and you look after it so it still works. Decent ultrasonics still cost money. You can buy a cheap one. It's a bit useless. To go and buy an Elmar or something like that, there's still a few dollars involved. And they make short work of anything, and they're really good. But you've got to have one. You can buy a fairly cheap ultrasonic for about $200-300 even out of China, and they're all right, but they're not particularly powerful, and the transducers don't seem to be grounded particularly well to the bottom of the tank. So what you get is you don't get a lot of vibration because they're not actually doing anything. So I would like a decent ultrasonic. I'd love a decent ultrasonic, and I just tossed one out because it wasn't worth getting fixed, as the Elmar was going to cost $1,800 to put a new transducer in, and I tossed it. But sometimes you've got to strike a happy medium and buy a cheap one, and I might even do that at some point. But that's the best thing. Otherwise, toothbrush and a bit of Windex. Hi, Ted. Good to see you. How big an ultrasonic do you need? Good question. Really good question. If you buy a decent one, then it should have plenty of power for the size of the tank. If you buy a cheap one, you can get caught and find something that's got a bigger tank than the unit can really handle. And probably it's not a bad idea to get one with a heater in it as well. And a timer is a good idea. But the secret is to have a basket so that you don't just drop things in and they rest on the bottom and stuff up the transducer. And the other big secret with them is not to run them dry, which is very easy to do, especially with a heater in them. So there's me on ultrasonics. I don't know a whole lot about them except the ones I've used, and I don't know much about them either, to be honest. But a decent set of baskets. There's one there actually. That's a homemade mesh basket out of a ultrasonic cleaner, a watch parts cleaner. That's really all you need. Or strainer like that, just to keep the bits off the bottom so that the transducer's not working too hard and gets burned out. I'll have to look that out, Cam. Leave it on the kitchen sink and see what happens. Yeah, alfoil's the answer. Just put a piece of alfoil in it. If it's a decent ultrasonic, it should put holes in the alfoil. I'm guessing that most Chinese ultrasonics you buy won't do that. I've not seen a lot of reviews showing that. But if you buy an Elmar or something like that from Germany, they'll definitely in 5 minutes make the alfoil so you can see through it. You know, that's how good they should be. But I'm not sure about the Chinese ones. And fluid, simple green, dishwashing detergent and a bit of pine oil, something like that, pine oil disinfectant. Hot water. Little bit of dish soap. A little bit of, probably a dash of Dettol too, doesn't hurt to stop the fungus. You can buy special liquids from them. You shouldn't use benzene because benzene in ultrasonic is carcinogenic. So there you go. That's a nasty. You shouldn't use benzene in them because it's a bit scary. So petrol in ultrasonic is if you're that silly, probably apply for a Darwin Award before you do it. But benzene in ultrasonic is a stupid idea. We had that drummed into us at school. Really stupid. There's a few new people coming in. That's awesome. Good to see you all. Anyway, that's me on. I don't know a lot about ultrasonics. I only sort of put water in them and drop things in them and fish them out. That's about where I'm at. I did mess around with that steady for a bit. There's a steady over here on the wall. I don't know if you know all about that. I tried not to mention it because it's a bit of a stuff up. But I'm thinking I'm probably going to get another one cast. I'm at that point with it that probably the best thing is to melt this down and cast another one. But we'll see. There's just a comedy of errors and a lot of things to fix on it before it's sort of half good. So we'll see about that. Hi Ace, good to see you. Don't know if I've got much else to report. I think that's about where we're at with that. It's all my news. The 3D printer is an awesome thing for prototyping and making sure things fit, and really, really good for that. And this 3D printer is a whole miles ahead of my 3D printer, and this is a print off my 3D printer. I don't know if you can even see that. It's not going to focus even a little bit. But we put it, yeah, that's probably better. This is off my 3D printer, and they're sort of okay, but it's just a general outline thing. Marcus's new 3D printer is really, really nice, so I'm a bit impressed with that. I think that's about it for me. I'm going to call this, I think. Thanks, everyone, for stopping by. Thanks for everyone who made it, and everyone who supports this channel is a really awesome thing to do, and I really, really appreciate it. But there's going to be some things happening in the next little while, and probably a drill index is going to be one of them. And I need to get in and finish too my gear cutting attachment for my lathe. But until then, we'll see you next week, and be kind to each other.